welcome to your new obsession, where every episode is packed with tools and science to help you become the best version of yourself. Whether you're a biohacking newbie or a seasoned pro, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the Biohacking Trainer Podcast. For some of you guys, this is your first time visiting from my Instagram launch. Thank you for following. And again, I'm your host, Luke Splusky, longevity enthusiast, personal trainer, and fellow biohacker. To start off this podcast, let me first start by asking you a question. If you only had 10 minutes to upgrade either your body and mind today, what would you choose? Cold or heat? Now, both of these can be very powerful, but using the right one and at the right time is what essentially is going to separate casual wellness from, say, true biohacking. So today we'll be breaking down the science, the strategy, and the practical application of cold plunges versus sauna use. So you know exactly when to use each for maximum results. So let's dive right into it, shall we? So cold exposure is going to shock and sharpen your system. So first off, cold plunges typically range from anywhere from about 50 to 59 degrees Fahrenheit, or in some cases, if you did a cryo chamber or a cold chamber, you can range anywhere from about negative 100 to about negative 190 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, of course, it's uncomfortable, but when your body hits cold water or even a cold booth, it goes into a controlled stress response. But this isn't going to be harmful stress. It's adaptive stress overall, right? So essentially, this is what's happening, say, beneath the surface. So your blood vessels are going to constrict. You're going to create vasoconstriction, which is going to push all that blood towards your vital organs to essentially keep you warm and alive. Your nervous system is going to fire up. So it's going to release adrenaline and dopamine, a lot of those, say, feel-good hormone responses. And inflammation is temporarily suppressed. So your breathing has also become a little rapid. It will then get controlled. You also see a slight increase in heart rate and blood pressure. Now, when you're done and you exit out of this cold water, cold chamber, your body's going to push all that oxygenated-rich blood throughout your distal extremities and throughout your body to help heat you back up naturally. Now, over time, the use of this cold exposure is going to lead to faster recovery and reduce muscle soreness. It's going to increase mental resilience and alertness, so it can enhance cognitive function. It's going to also improve circulation efficiency, and you'll also see a noticeable boost in mood and energy levels. A lot of people, even including myself, I like to utilize cold exposure as a way to get out of that afternoon lull, or you may feel that tiredness in the afternoon after lunch. I know in my own case, I'll utilize this to use it as a pick-me-up in that afternoon to finish off the latter half of my day. Some cases, people will utilize cold exposure before the start of their day. Use that as more of a natural stimulant to wake them up and get that energy boost. And you can also see this in a therapeutic standpoint to reduce muscle soreness and pain. Now, I know there's a lot of literature out there that does state not to necessarily use cold exposure right after a workout, which is true. So if you're working on trying to create a lot of hypertrophy, you do not want to use a cold plunge or a cold chamber directly after your workout. Ideally, you're going to want to use it before your workout or use it the day prior. You don't want to use it right after a workout. You don't want to go from a anabolic state to then a catabolic state. Best time to use this, you want to use it in the morning as a mental reset and increase energy levels, or when you're feeling overall sluggish and a little foggy or unmotivated in that afternoon. Now, the next topic we'll go into is the heat exposure. So let's talk a little bit about the sauna usage. Of course, there's several different types of saunas, but just to give a short recap on that, you can use anywhere from a dry sauna, a steam sauna, or an infrared sauna. Now, saunas typically do operate anywhere between 150 to 195 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're going to deliver deep, penetrating relaxation to your body. So now when you essentially are going into a sauna, what you're creating is a heart rate increase, of course, similar to light cardiovascular activity. One thing I always do like to stress when it comes to sauna usage is the use of a sauna isn't going to take over for cardiovascular activity. It's not better or the same as cardio activity. It's better on a day where you're feeling sluggish or you're really tired and you want to stress your system, but you just don't have enough energy to go out and do a run or a bike ride or a long walk. This is where a sauna can be great to use instead of a cardiovascular activity. Some other different things that you'll see from stepping into a sauna is your blood vessels are going to dilate, you're going to improve overall circulation. You'll also begin to sweat heavily, of course, because you're in such a hot environment. And your parasympathetic nervous system, also known as your rest and digest system, is going to activate. Now, all of this that I'm talking about is essentially going to lead to muscle relaxation and release of tension. It's going to reduce stress and cortisol levels. It's going to improve your cardiovascular conditioning. It's also going to help with your sleep quality as well. For those of you that do tend to wear your wearables, this would be a good thing to always track, is that sleep quality and your recovery performance from the use of sauna usage. And you also see a healthier skin through the increased blood flow throughout your body and boosted circulation. The best way I always like to talk about a sauna is think of this as more of your recovery amplifier. So you do want to use this on rest days, of course, but you do want to use this after a hard workout. You also want to use this in the evenings to help you unwind. Now, this is another point I always like to make. I was talking a little bit earlier about cold therapy, how you can use it, say, before a workout or at the start of your day when you're feeling sluggish. Sauna, now, the use of heat is great at the end of your day to help you go to sleep, help you unwind, and also help with, say, the mental fatigue and the mental load on your day. This is where a lot of people do tend to get kind of mixed up or get it wrong with the strategies of cold versus heat. So a lot of people tend to treat cold and heat like opposing choices when they're actually very complementary tools. The real power essentially is going to come from the intentional usage. So again, cold you want to use to wake up your system. So early in the morning before a workout or that kickstart in the mid-afternoon. You use it to reduce inflammation. You're going to use it to build more mental toughness and resilience. Heat is great in regards to, say, relaxation purposes, improving recovery after a hard workout, or preparing your body for sleep. Again, you don't use heat directly right before you go to sleep, but a few hours before you're going to go to bed. Great to use a sauna or great to use heat therapy. This is a perfect segue into a combo strategy known as contrast therapy. I know a lot of people have heard of the use of the contrast therapy of going from a sauna to a cold plunge, back to a sauna to a cold plunge. And it's a great therapy. So if you use the two in combination of hot and cold, it's a great way to level up, essentially, from a physiological standpoint. So a simple protocol for that would be you would start with the heat for anywhere from about 10 minutes to 30 minutes. That's going to help relax your muscles and enhance circulation. And then go to cold. So you're going to use that to reduce your inflammation and activate your system. And you're going to do that from anywhere from about 2 to 5 minutes. Now, disclaimer here when it comes to the use of hot and cold therapy, if you're going from, say, a sauna to a chamber, like a cryo chamber, you do have to wait a period of time in between sessions, just because if you're going into a cryo chamber, you do need to be dry, because you're going into an extremely cold environment that's more cold air, and with the sweat glands activated and you're actively perspiring, you have a higher chance of suffering from necrosis or like a cold burn. So best to dry off in between. Now, if you're going as a cold plunge, it's perfectly safe. You're not going to get a cold burn in that regard because you're already going into a cold water environment. But just a disclaimer for any of those that are looking at using or pairing saunas with a cold chamber. Now, in regards to the two, going from hot to cold, you could do, in some cases, 2 to 3 rounds. Now, in this case, if you're going to go multiple rounds, you do want to finish with the heat. Again, that is going to heat you up naturally, help kind of enhance the process of heating back up, but also it's going to help relax your muscles and get back to enhancing that blood circulation. And basically, this is going to create a vascular workout. So it's going to help constrict and dilate blood vessels, which will help essentially improve circulation and recovery even further. Now, one important note for muscle growth with the use of these two is if your goal is essentially maximizing muscle hypertrophy, you're going to avoid cold plunging immediately after a strength training workout. Reason being for this is because of the inflammation in small amounts is part of the muscle building process. So you don't want to use cryotherapy from like a cold plunge standpoint or a chamber standpoint, because that's going to, essentially defeat the purpose of doing a hypertrophy workout. It's going to try to heal that inflammation immediately after. So you're going to want to use it several hours after or on a separate day. And then instead, in this case, use the sauna post-workout for the relaxation, say without interfering from a growth standpoint. Now, before you start or you jump into either extreme, keep this in mind, right? So start slow. Even 30 seconds of, say, cryotherapy exposure is sufficient. In some cases, even a minute is a lot for some people. Also, when it comes to sauna usage, don't push through dizziness or discomfort. If it's beyond your limits, shut it down, step out of the booth. Even if it's only been 10 minutes, that's sufficient as well. Also, stay hydrated, whether you're doing cryo or cold plunging or you're doing sauna. It's going to stress your system, so it's best that you are hydrated before going into either or. And lastly, if you do have any heart, respiratory, or blood pressure conditions, consult with your healthcare professional first. This is biohacking. This is not self-punishment. So make sure you talk to your healthcare practitioner beforehand. At the end of the day, both cold and heat therapies are tools to train your nervous system. Cold essentially is going to teach you how to stay calm in stress. It's also great for reducing inflammation. Heat essentially is going to teach you how to fully relax and recover and keep your joints lubricated. Now, when you master both, you're not just improving your body, you're going to upgrade your ability to handle life. Now, if you found this podcast helpful, make sure to subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. As always, consult with your healthcare provider before starting any new program. And thanks again for tuning in to the Biohacking Trainer Podcast. Stay healthy, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.